Career Reset, the podcast to help you succeed as a job seeker, by Carolina Newmanen.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Career Reset podcast. And Happy New Year! Happy New Year 2026. I hope you all had a nice, relaxing holiday break and that you celebrated Christmas if you celebrated the way you want it, and that you had some time to reflect on the past year and that you started the new year well. And what other topic could I have chosen for the first episode of the new year than talking about goals and goal setting? That is one of my favorite topics, and I love this time of the year because it's about fresh beginnings and reflections and making plans for what's to come. But I feel like in the recent years, because a lot has happened in the world and many things have not gone to plan, and at least a lot of people around me and a lot of my clients, for example, almost like have given up on setting any kind of goals because they feel like they were disappointed so many times that their goals did not come to reality. So they decided that it's better to just not set any goals at all. And I completely understand that. I have been in the same situation. I used to be very much new year, new me kind of person. I wanted to start completely fresh. Ideally, I would get rid of all my stuff and buy new stuff. At the very least, I always had to buy lots of new notebooks. I had to buy new diaries and calendars and make plans and just think that I will be a completely different person just because it's a new year and all the bad habits will go and all the good habits will come. And I, of course, set completely unrealistic plans, and then I followed them for a few years, and then one by one I dropped them, and then I felt stupid about myself. And I repeated this for several years, but then I really felt stupid for doing it every year the same. And so I decided to just not have any goals, or have kind of some goals that were almost given like that during the year in which I was supposed to graduate, and nothing really looked like that couldn't be the case. I set a goal to graduate, and that wasn't even that exciting. It was just a natural next step on my journey. So then I went through that period of not setting any goals and just being like, well, let's see what happens. Let's hope for the best. And then finally I arrived to the place where I'm now, where I do not believe that just because it's a new year, I will suddenly feel like doing all the things that I did not feel like doing in the past year, or that like everything will work out super smoothly and I will be perfect. But at the same time, I think it's a really good time to reflect and to make some plans and to set some goals, but to make it from a place not of hating my past self, but from wanting to have an exciting year, wanting to have a year in which I achieve something new, in which I grow. And so I think that the right approach is somewhere in the middle. And I discuss this with my clients all the time. I would really say that all or nothing mindset is something I talk about with every single client, and I can really relate to it because I used to be the same. I either wanted perfect results, and if I couldn't have the perfect results, I thought that it's not worth trying at all. For example, if I wanted to create some kind of new routine, if I wasn't able to follow it every single day perfectly, then I decided that it's just not worth it and I'll not do anything about it. So the right approach is somewhere in the middle, and with being okay of sometimes not being perfect, most of the time actually not being perfect, and learning to celebrate the good enough results and appreciating ourselves for showing up. So if you are like me and if you want to use this time of the year to make plans for the year, which I would highly, highly recommend, then I hope this episode will be useful for you, because I would like to share 5 tips that have really helped me to approach goal setting. And it's not these things that we have all heard a million times, like set smart goals, but it's more like different ways of thinking about it, different approaches, because instead of a step-by-step guide in this podcast, I just want that it's something that you listen to and it gives you a new perspective and you then think about the topic differently, and that usually is more impactful than having some kind of advice that maybe doesn't make sense for you to implement. And I'm also gonna share something exciting that I'm gonna be hosting very, very soon. So stay tuned for that. And let's start talking about how to set goals for this upcoming year. Actually, it's not the upcoming year, it already is the year. I keep saying my goals for next year, but it is already 2026. It is currently the 3rd of January 2026. It's Saturday, actually. I decided as one of my resolutions is to really take advantage of the fact that I work for myself and I do not need to work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. And actually, I have some nice personal plans for next week that are not related to my work, but then I need to kind of compensate for it during the weekend. And right now the weather is not really nice. I have nothing to do. I'm actually really inspired to record this episode, so this works really well for me, and then I can, without any guilt, do the things that I planned for my next week. And I'm also trialing to work 4 days a week, and I would like to have Wednesdays off and spend those days with my daughter, who will start daycare in about 3 months. Well, let's see if we get a place. So it's a bit stressful for me because it creates time constraint. But I was looking at my calendar for the past year and just checking what I actually achieved. And I don't know why, but for me, Wednesdays are always extremely unproductive days. And it's been like that for years. Like, even I think when I was at the university, and it's not actually that surprising because my weekends tend to be very, very relaxing. I don't have a ton of plans. I usually just chill, maybe see some friends, some family, and I feel very rested after my weekends. And then on Monday, I of course have a lot of energy, so I like jump in and I work a lot, and I sometimes work for quite many hours on Mondays. Then Tuesdays, I still have some of the energy left, but I overdo it. And then on Wednesday, I kind of crush a little bit. I used to call it Wednesday burnouts. And on Wednesday, I really need to force myself very, very hard to get some work done. And usually I don't succeed. I don't get much done. I love it when I have sessions with my clients on Wednesdays because that is the only activity that I never need to force myself into, or like I just join the call and like the hour flies by and I'm in the flow and I love it so much. So I usually suggest, if you're one of my clients, now you know why I always suggest Wednesdays for our calls. But of course, I could of course try to rethink my approach to work, but I just decided that I will try to work with myself, not against myself, and embrace the fact that Wednesdays are not my most productive days and just try to take it as a day off. And I actually think that having this kind of time constraint can sometimes work really well, because the first half of the past year I was on a maternity leave, but I worked a little bit. So I still created posts for LinkedIn and I communicated with some clients. I think I even had some clients in the first half of the year. And only time I had available was my child's naps, which back then they were much longer than they are now, and then some evenings and some weekends. But if I look at the amount of work I was able to get done, it was actually not that different from the amount of work I was able to get done in the second half of the year, when I was most of it I was fully back to work and I had all work week to myself. So I actually think that having less time will make me much more effective and productive, because I will focus on what matters and I will not procrastinate so much. But that's something I'm planning to test out, and I can give you an update how it's been going. But let's talk then about goal setting. Finally, I got a little bit sidetracked. So my first tip for setting the goals for the new year is a bit counterintuitive, and it is to actually not set the goals for the whole year, but to set them more short term. And there are, generally speaking, two types of goals. We either have, let's say, like achievements, for example, to run a marathon, or then we have some kind of goals about doing something regularly. So, for example, to go for a run 3 times a week. And for both of these, I would not recommend to set it for the whole year ahead. Let's say if you are not a very good runner or very regular runner and you set yourself to run 3 days a week for the whole year, that's a very overwhelming goal, and you are not assuming any kind of progress or any changes in your priorities. So what I would suggest instead is to set the goals for months or quarters. I read over the holidays this, I think it's quite a popular book, at least based on the number of reviews on Goodreads, called 12 Weeks Year. And I'm really not sure that that's the name, because I started reading many more ebooks. And when you read an ebook, you don't see the cover. You just open the ebook reader and it just loads where you left off last time. But I think it's called 12 Weeks Year. And it's a very basic self-help book, in the sense that there is a very simple idea and then you have a lot of anecdotes, a lot of stories, so that concept can be turned into a book. But at the simplest terms, it just says that you shouldn't set goals for the whole year, but for a shorter term, for 12 weeks, which roughly is 1 quarter. And I actually think that is a very good idea, because you can know what situations you're in now and what resources you have, what you care about now. But for example, you don't know what kind of situation you're going to be in June or towards the end of the year. And as we have all seen in the past years, world can change, our lives can change, our situation can change, but also our priorities. So something I really care about now, maybe I'm not gonna care about so much later in the year. And another reason that the book mentioned was that if we set a goal for the year, I would like to use examples related to careers, but I'm coming up with them here on the spot, which was not a very good preparation on my part. But let's say that I would set a goal for myself to go to a conference in my industry. And I would set that goal to do that during this year. Well, okay, so I have a whole year. I have 12 months to do it. So January, I don't really need to stress about it. February, still I have 10 months to go. And I can tell myself that I have other priorities now, and that maybe there aren't even any conferences now. So I do nothing basically for the first half of the year, and I just assume that something will happen towards the end of the year. We really tend to be very optimistic about our future self. That's the whole point of setting goals, that we think that, okay, right now I don't feel like doing this, but future me will suddenly from somewhere get the motivation. I think that's very typical with, for example, when we want to eat healthier, that right now I really want to eat fries and burger, but tomorrow me will magically really be into eating salads. And that does not tend to be the case, because we are the same person. We usually have same amount of motivation. We like the same things, and we don't feel like doing certain things, whether it's now or whether it is next week. And overall, let's say the type of goal, like going to a conference, like you don't need 12 months to prepare for it. It really can be something that you can plan and get done within a certain quarter, if there is a relevant conference for your industry, for example. And if there is not, then I would recommend setting a different goal for the quarter. Another reason why I think it's very good to set these short-term goals is that if you are thinking about starting doing something new, so for a lot of my clients, that is, for example, networking, meeting new people, reaching out to people they know, or it's something related to personal branding, like posting on LinkedIn or starting a blog, starting a podcast, then it's really hard to quantify that if you have never done that before. At the beginning, for example, If you want to start reaching out to people and inviting them for coffee chats, then at the beginning, like just sending one message takes a lot of courage, a lot of time and effort. Even you will probably overthink the message a lot. You will look for the perfect person. So then contacting even one person a week can be a real stretch. But once you get into it, then contacting 5 people in a week will be a matter of 15 minutes, for example. So instead of setting that goal for the whole year, that contact one person a week, set it for a month. During the month of January, I'll send one message a week and then I will reevaluate. And maybe I will find out that it worked really well and that I would have the capacity to contact much more. So then for February, I try to contact 2 people a week, and I slowly build up to a point where that is something that I don't need to even think about. That is something I naturally do, that is part of my day-to-day. Or after a few months of doing this, you realize that, okay, now I have met quite a lot of people. Now I have quite a good network, and now I would actually just like to follow up with the people who I've already met instead of all the time making new connections. So instead of deciding your whole year in advance, it's much better to work with where you are now, what's the most immediate next step you want to take, and set some goal around that. And then also it's important at the end of the quarter actually sit down and reflect and think, what have I achieved? How has it worked for me? What hasn't worked? How can I readjust? Is this still something I care about? Or do I want to set a different goal for myself? So even though it's the beginning of the year and you see so many videos and posts like my plans and goals for the next year, I would recommend sticking to more short-term, quarter, month, or even a week are something that is much more in our control. And speaking of things that are in your control, that is actually my second tip, is to set goals of something that you can directly influence. So naturally, as I work with job seekers, their goal is to get a job in 2026. And that's something I'm very excited to help them with. And I actually think it's very, very realistic for the people that I work with, because I give them the exact strategy to succeed. But at the end of the day, they cannot create their own job contract and sign it and start working. It depends on finding the right company and that right company offering them the right job. So I actually don't think that's a very, very good goal. It's more like a wish. Of course, if you're unemployed, you wish to get a job in 2026, but I would more set the goal around what steps you're gonna take to ensure or increase your chances of that happening. So that can be around sending applications, around making a better LinkedIn profile, around taking some training, for example, taking my Career Incubator course, which is still available. I'm gonna link it down below. And if you now feel very, very motivated to work on your career and work on your job search, and you want to get a new approach, you want to try something new, start with a clean slate, and you want some resource that actually will guarantee success, then I'm gonna link the link. I guess that's how you say, link the link to the course below, and you can check it out. But that can be a goal to find a resource and actually following it, finishing it, and implementing the advice. That is something that is fully in your control. And of course, the purpose of that is to find a job, or as an alternative. For example, if you are currently working and you would like to start earning more money, then that can also be a goal, but you need to be a little bit flexible around the path to that goal. So if that's something that really matters to you, maybe it's even a necessity for your current life situation to start earning more money, you need to be then willing that it might mean maybe having some hard discussions with your supervisor, with the HR department, challenging how often your company can grant you a salary raise. It can also then mean having to look for a different job and maybe temporarily compromising on some aspects of a job. So if your current company doesn't pay you what you want to earn, but they offer full flexibility, that you never have to go to an office, but then you would apply for a job that offers a higher salary, something you would be much more happier with, but they require you to come 2 days a week to the office. So you need to be willing to make that sacrifice, or you need to rethink what's more valuable to you at this stage of your life and your career. And if your goal was to earn more money, then you need to be open that there are different paths to that. And your ideal path might be to stay in your company and just earn more money. But if that's not possible, then you might have to consider this other path of, for example, looking for a different job or thinking of other ways of securing additional income. More on that towards the end of the episode. And for example, for me in my business, when I started and only thing I did was one-on-one coaching, I used to set goals around the number of clients I want to work with, how many clients I want to find in a month. But that was something, again, that was not fully in my control. So of course I could do marketing, talking about my services, meeting people, meeting with potential customers, but ultimately I could not control whether or not they will say yes to working with me. And also often these numbers were based on kind of what I wished, but not so much on what was realistic based on my past, let's say, success rate with finding customers. So then I set the goals on things that I could directly control, such as posting on LinkedIn, going to events, reaching out to people for chats, and then the clients came as almost like a byproduct. So tip number 1, set more short-term goals. Tip number 2, set goals within something that is in your control. And tip number 3 is set goals that actually excite you. And this one is really important. Again, in my practice in working with job seekers, when I ask them, what do you want to do in the future? I very rarely, as their first answer, I get something that I can see genuinely excites them. So either they want to find a job in a field where they believe it's going to be easy to find a job, or in a field in which they have a degree. But if they're honest with themselves, it's not a field that genuinely excites them. Or lately, it's been also a lot about different learning. So I often hear when people set as a goal to use AI more in their jobs because they feel like it's something they should be doing, that everybody's saying that the workers that will be able to use AI will be more in demand in the job market, or that if they don't do it, they will miss the train and it will be damaging to their career. But if that's something that, if you are honest with yourself, you really do not care about, that's a goal that is destined to just not happen. And again, speaking from my own experience, a goal that I set every single year is to get better in my Finnish skills. So I live in Finland, where Finnish is the official language. I've lived here for over 8 years, so quite a long time, and I'm still not fluent in that language. And if I compare it, for example, with English or German, to two other foreign languages that I'm fluent in, even though I only learned these at school, I was able to get fluent much faster than a language of a country in which I live. But of course, I heavily rely on English. I work in English. I speak at home English. And it would require time and energy and motivation to actually sit down and learn the language. And if I'm brutally honest, it is not something that excites me. It's something I feel like I should be doing to be better integrated in the society, and just something that I feel a little bit ashamed about myself, that I am not as fluent as I think I could be at this point. But then again, it's just with my limited time resources, it's not something I right now really want to be spending time on. And if I set a goal from this place of this is something I feel like I should be doing, and if I don't do it, I'm not good enough, it's not going to work, and it's just going to be a tool to feel bad about yourself. And so I am giving up on that goal for this year at least, or for for this time right now. Naturally, I am getting better at that language because I am to some extent surrounded by it and I consume some Finnish content. But as in my active efforts being put towards that, I am not gonna focus on it this year, basically. So I just want you to check in if your goals are really something like, wow, I really want that. That would be amazing if I achieved this. It would make me feel really proud, and I'm not excited just about the end goal, having the actual result, but I'm also excited for the journey, for doing the steps, for getting better every day and learning new things about the topic or about myself while I'm on the journey. That is a good goal to set when it makes you like smile, that yes, that is something I want to do. But if you feel like the society is somehow pressuring to do that, or other people around you are doing it, then just forget it and focus on your journey and on the things that truly matter to you. So that's my third tip, to set a goal around something that you actually want, that excites you. And my fourth tip is to find a middle ground between over goal setting and under goal setting. And if you don't know what that means, then that's because I just made it up, but let me explain that on examples. So when I start working with a new client, of course, we spend a lot of time at the beginning setting the goal for our process, for our coaching together, so that I know what they want and I know what I am there to help with. I don't decide what they should care about. I don't decide what is the right path forward. I just help them discover what that right path is. And I often ask that at the end of our process, which is usually like 2 to 3 months, what would they like to achieve? And typically one of the two things happen, and that is over goal setting or under goal setting. So under goal setting is setting the bar extremely low. And this is very common for people who have gone through tough times in their career, who had like things outside their control happening. It's typically people who have been laid off several times, who have been unemployed for a long time, who have applied for a lot of jobs but did not hear back, or who several times got into the very final stage of an interview process but then in the end did not get the job. I know this very, very well, all these situations. And so I understand that at that point, you kind of want to throw your hands in the air and say, no matter what I do, nothing works out for me. So why set any goals that I will then just feel disappointed about not achieving them? And these people often tell me that if I have like a good LinkedIn profile and a good CV, that would be amazing. That would really be the goal that I'm after. And as much as that is something I help with, and I also believe that is very important in the job market to have a strong CV and a strong LinkedIn profile, it's a little bit of what's the opposite of ambitious. It's not very ambitious goal. It is something that you can get done within a week. So setting that as a goal for your year, it's on one hand, it is achievable, but on the other hand, it's really not something that will make a massive amount of difference in your life and in your career especially. And if I think about people hiring me and paying for my services, I always tell them that you should ask for more. This is the bare minimum what we will get done, but that's gonna be just the starting point. Then we're gonna take that CV and take that LinkedIn profile and share it with the world and take it from there. I think it's important to have some kind of expectations of ourselves and set those expectations not to some crazy standard that is gonna get us burned out, but to something that will require some work on our mind, but also actually getting the result we want. And getting that balance can be really hard. That's exactly what I help people with. I am a bit of a reality check when it comes to them setting their goals, and I tell them when I think they could aim a bit higher, but I also tell them when they are asking quite a lot of themselves. And that's the second part, and that is the over goal setting. So if we think realistically, for example, the length of current recruitment process, you are looking at several rounds of interviews. Between each of these interviews, there is some time when the company is interviewing other people, making a decision, evaluating. So even if the company is very, very efficient, you're looking at 2 to 3 months. So expecting that within a 3-month period, you would be able to send an application, go through interview process, get a contract and start in a new job. I'm not saying that is completely out of question, but it is not very likely. And again, this is something that does not fully depend on you. In the end, in the recruitment process, you can, of course, control what kind of application you send, how you show up, how you prepare for an interview, but then the length of the process or the ultimate decision, which candidate the company will move on, is not within your control. So why setting yourself a goal that will in the end make you feel disappointed that you didn't achieve it when that was not actually your fault? And it was maybe actually nobody's fault. It was just not very good estimate of how long things take nowadays. Another example, something I also often help people with, is when they want to start posting on LinkedIn and then getting that quantity right. So I always ask people, what do you think is realistic for you in a weekly or monthly basis? And for example, one client told me that what's realistic for her is 2 posts per month. And of course, and 100%, that is still better than nothing. If the options are nothing or 2 posts per month, then I will 100% be in for 2 posts per month. But at the same time, given that it's a LinkedIn post, it's something you can get done in 5 minutes. Of course, you need to build up your confidence to actually do it. But I challenged that a little bit and I said, could we try 1 per week? And it's all trial and error. When you're starting to do something new, then, you can try. You can say 1 per week. And if it really takes that much time that there was absolutely no way for you to get it done, then let's have a smaller goal. But realistically speaking, posting twice a month is not gonna make much difference. It's like a very little drop in the sea of people who show up on LinkedIn much more regularly. So it's okay if it feels like a little bit of a stretch, but finding the balance where it is doable, but it does require some work and it is something that could make a difference, like 4 posts a month, that is already something that can start bringing results. While 2 posts a month, very unlikely. It's valuable in the sense that it helps you to build the habit and you are showing up at least somehow. But if we are talking about some actual opportunities in your career, increasing your visibility, become someone that people start remembering, recognizing, that's probably not gonna happen. And at the same time, then when people ask me, well, how often do you post? I post 5 times a week. And to me, it doesn't feel like a lot. It takes me, 2 hours a week, maybe a bit less, to create these 5 posts. I have become really, really fast over time, but at the start, that would be unimaginable for me. Not because I wouldn't have the actual time, but it was a lot of mind drama I had around it. I would think that 5 posts a week, it's too much. People will be so annoyed with me. Everybody will unfollow me. All my friends will be like, oh my God, you post so much. I don't even have 5 ideas a week on posts I could make. I just had a lot of this drama, and over time I had to learn to overcome it. And yes, some people tell me that I post too much, and that is fine. But then also many people tell me that they really like my posts and they like that I post so often, and those are the people that I write the posts for. Everybody is free to follow and unfollow whoever they like, and that's not even the point for me to justify. It just works well for me. I like posting 5 times a week, so it's the right goal for me. But I would not recommend to try to go from 0 to 100. So to summarize this point, try to find some middle ground in your goal. And this is with everything. If you're setting goal around exercising once per week is better than nothing, but in terms of that making a big difference to how you feel physically, how you feel mentally, what it does to your body, it's not gonna do much. But if you try to exercise 5 times a week, if you're starting from nothing, that's too much for your body. So why not say 3 times a week? If you're trying to spend less money, it doesn't mean that you cannot buy ever anything again. It just means thinking about what is some expense that you're making that in the end doesn't even bring you much. If you're paying for some subscription and you're not using that subscription, then stop that subscribing, and that is already you spending less money. So this really applies to all areas of life, and so it also applies to careers. And here at this point I also want to talk about if you are setting a goal around entrepreneurship or starting some kind of business, because that is something I want to talk much more about, because if there was one question I got the most during the past year, it was around starting a business, if it's a good idea, if it's realistic, how to do it. Even when I was providing some services like working with other organizations and providing a service that was purely focused on job search, it's for people who are looking for a job, I still got questions around starting a business. And I was happy about it because I really like talking about it, and I really, really like helping to start their business. But that is an area in which I think people get the goal setting the most off. So where the over goal setting and under goal setting, I see so much that on one hand, people will set a goal that, okay, I'm starting my business, so I want to create a website. So during this quarter, my goal is to create a website. It does not take 3 months to create a website with all the tools that we have available now. And especially if you're starting out, you do not need a very complex website, because let me tell you, not many people are gonna be looking at your website when you're just starting out. And I'm not saying don't have a website, focus on other things, focus on getting clients. Like if you feel like you want to have a place to which you can direct potential customers, if you want to have a place where you communicate your services, then have a website. I think that is a good idea. But it can be a bit of a hideaway that you can say, okay, yes, I'm starting my business and I'm here working on my website, and it needs to be perfect and it needs to contain all the information, and I need to consult ChatGPT about every single sentence I put there, and then I need to think of the design and the logo and the font, and it's a big project. Then you're just avoiding what really matters, because once the website is done, what you'll find out that really nobody is looking at the website, and there are other things you need to be doing to get your business off the ground. So be realistic in the sense that it really does not take more than a week. I would say it takes a day to create a website for a starting business, but take a week, take 2 weeks, and then move on to the next step. And on the opposite end of the spectrum are people who are overly ambitious with the goals, and they say that they are just starting out, and during 2026 they want to leave their full-time job and fully support themselves financially from their business. I'm not saying that is not realistic. There are surely many people who can do it, and it really depends on your starting position. That do you already have a network of potential clients? Are you already somewhat well established in your field? Are you a known name? Then the transition can be much smoother and much easier. But for most people, that is creating unnecessary pressure, because I heard somewhere that you need to treat a new business like a baby. So when you have a newborn, you don't have high expectations of that newborn, what all they're gonna get for you. You go into it with the expectation that you need to do all the work, you need to fulfill their every single need at your own expense. You need to invest a lot of time, money, and energy into caring for that little human, and then eventually the the little baby will smile at you for the first time or do something funny, and that will feel like it's paying back. But the amount of energy you need to put into it and the amount you're getting back are not in balance initially. So that's the approach you should take here. So for a new business, I would just say that set the goal around the things you will do, not around the things you expect to get back. But again, more on that later. I'm really teasing it in this episode, but I want to stay on the topic and stay on the advice I want to give you before I talk about something I'm offering. And the final tip, and I've been talking for almost an hour, so I'll try to keep this one quick. So don't throw it all away when you don't see success immediately. And this is not so much around the goal setting, but more on goal following through. But that is so important. And again, this is based on my experience when I tried lots of things for a few days, few weeks, and then it didn't give me a result. So I would say, okay, there is no point. And that's something I hear so much from my clients that they tell me, okay, I've sent 20 job applications, wasn't invited for an interview, so job application doesn't work. I went to 2 networking events and didn't meet any relevant person. I posted on LinkedIn once and only my wife liked it. So what's the point? Nothing is working out. Basically coming to the conclusion that it's better to do nothing than to try is never the right approach. And sometimes it is just the length of time, the quantity of work you need to put in before you start seeing results. Sometimes it's about rethinking the approach, the how, but both of these are fixable and both of these are something that you need to go out and show up again more differently and so on. But you should never come to the conclusion that it's best to just sit and do nothing, because guaranteed that is the only way that will not bring you results if you give up and you don't do anything. And I completely understand it in terms of a job search, that you can really get to a point where it starts feeling like no matter what you do or do not do, the result will be the same. It doesn't matter if you send the job application, because most likely you will get rejected because there are 200 other people that applied and you believe that they have much more credentials, much more experience, much more skills. Okay, fair enough. If you feel like right now your motivation to send job application is really low, what could you replace that time with? If you feel like you're lacking some of the skills that are listed on the job ads, then you can spend that time, for example, learning those skills. Or you can spend that time reaching out to people who are doing the job you want to do and asking them, hey, how could you give me some advice? How did you manage to get into this job? How did you manage to work for this company? The number of times I have heard this doesn't work and so I stopped doing it is overwhelming, I have to say. The people who succeed, who get the jobs, are the people who are doing the work. It's in the end that simple. When I look at not just my clients, but people who I have had some interaction with, and so I follow their journey a little bit, and those who succeed and those who do not succeed, the only difference is the amount of effort they put in. It's not like the ones who succeed are smarter, luckier, in a better situation. Of course, there is some amount of privilege that all of us have or don't have to some extent. And I'm definitely not saying that all recruitment processes and everything in the job market is fair, like 100% not, but I still see enough examples where what separates the people that succeed from those who don't is the amount of effort, the amount of work, the amount of times people are willing to try something even though it doesn't bring them immediate results. So if you feel like what you have been doing doesn't bring you any results, then you need to make the call of whether you haven't tried for long enough, or whether you need to rethink if your approach is right. And you can, of course, try both of these and see what comes out of it. And also check in with your perfectionism here. So when we are talking about frequency goals, like if you set a goal for yourself to go to 2 events a week, and it's the first week of January and it's really cold and you just really don't feel like leaving the house, so you don't make it to any, or you only make it to 1, and you feel bad about yourself for it. So what you want to do is throw away the goal completely and forget that you ever set yourself the goal of going to the events. And that doesn't grow you in any way. But what's much more valuable to yourself, to your growth, is to say, okay, this week didn't go to plan. I'll try again next week. And that is super powerful thing to do. It reminds me when I watch my daughter playing with some toy. When she's trying to open some toy and she tries for a little bit and it doesn't work, and so she throws it away and goes to play with something else. And she has a full right to do it. She is 1 year old, so her task is to walk around here and explore what she can and cannot do. But us as adults, we are a bit further away, and we can tell ourselves, okay, this toy is quite hard to open, but I really care about it. I think it's important for me to open it. So instead of throwing it away, I will take another look. I will look up advice. I will talk to people to try to get help. And I'll get some sleep and I'll try again tomorrow. That is growth. That is persistence. That is resilience. And that is what you need in this job market and in this world to succeed. So those were all my tips. I hope this was helpful for you. This gave you a new perspective. So as a summary, to set goals that are not for the entire year, but that are more short term, to set goals around something that is in your control. So that is something like, I will do this year, not the world will give me this year. To set a goal that genuinely excites you and is not something that you feel like you should be doing. To try to find that spot when you are not setting super high expectations, but you're also not setting the bar so low that you can just step over it very quickly. And finally, to not quit when you don't manage at the first try. And if your goal this year is around job search, then I would highly encourage you to check out my online course, Career Incubator, that will give you the exact strategy to follow. You can start the year simple by just watching the lessons and creating your strategy. You can implement it and you will remove so much overwhelm. You will cut through so much conflicting advice, and it is very, very reliable resource that has proven results of hundreds of people who have taken it and who saw clear impact on their job search. So definitely do check that out. It is available. You can start it right away. It's fully on demand, so you can capitalize on that new year energy and motivation and start seeing results on your job search journey right away. If you would like more support, if you would like to hire me as your career coach, that is also possible, but it's not going to be possible for much longer. I actually wanted to completely stop one-on-one coaching focused on the job search with the start of this year, but I still have some clients who haven't completed their packages from last year, so I decided that still for some time this year I will offer one-on-one coaching before I will move to my next plan. So if you have been following me on LinkedIn, listening to this podcast, and you resonate with my advice, you feel like I would be the right advisor, the right coach for you, then do not hesitate. Fill out the form in the show notes. Let me know a little bit about your situation, and I'm gonna get in touch with you directly and suggest the next steps, how we can get this done. And finally, if your goal for this year is to start a business. And you don't need to call it to start a business. If you want to start something, some project of your own, explore that aspect a little bit. I will be hosting a free webinar on this topic called How to Start Your Own Thing in 2026. And I am planning in that webinar going back to when I started my business, and I will tell mistakes I made and how you can avoid that mistakes, because there is so much business advice out there, but a lot of it is extremely generic and a lot of it is from people positioning themselves as the business experts. And I want to be very mindful about positioning myself as a human who sometimes makes good decisions, who does many things right, but also who makes mistakes, which is completely fine. And the biggest value I can give is to look honestly at my beginnings, at my mistakes that you could avoid, and maybe kickstart your business, whatever you want to call it, a little bit faster and a little bit smoother. So the webinar will happen next Friday, the 16th of January at 10 a.m. I love morning webinars. Of course, there will be a replay. So if you can't make it live, you'll get that replay if you register for the webinar. I'm really excited about this. I've been thinking about it for so long, since, as I mentioned, I got so many questions last year. I've been around so many people who are into entrepreneurship. I think it's a super smart way, wherever in your career journey you are, it can be such a safety net to build either side income that can eventually grow into full income, and the skills, the knowledge you accumulate when you decide to go the entrepreneurial path. It's just something you cannot get from somewhere else. So I'm super, super excited to be talking more about this topic and to host this webinar. I have already so many ideas for it that I will need to constrain myself a little bit to fit it in just 1 hour. And I really want this to be something relatable, because it's definitely not my goal to now become some business guru. I think there is so much value in having someone who's just a few steps ahead of you and who is still relatable. When I see people who are making hundreds of thousands and millions, that is like cool for them and inspiring. But for me right now, that feels very far-fetched. So for example, following their advice is a little bit difficult for me, because I keep telling myself that I'm at a completely different situation. But I am someone who started a business from zero and who was able to replace and exceed her previous full-time job income without burning out, without doing anything crazy, without doing anything cringe. And if that is something you want to achieve and that is the first step, then I can definitely help you with that. And that's why I'm going to be hosting the webinar, because it's a new year and we have all these plans and goals. So I want to share what I have learned on my entrepreneurial journey. So I hope to see many of you there. There is a limit to how many people I can host in the webinar, and I am pretty sure this will be very popular. So don't hesitate and sign up now. And that is all that I will share in this episode. So I hope you found it inspiring, that it helped you kickstart your year, and I really hope I'll see you in the webinar. Let me know what are your goals for this year. Would love to hear that, and that's what I'm now asking all my clients and all the people who I'm talking with. What are your goals? What are your plans for this year? Because I am genuinely very curious what are people working towards this year. All right, then take care, and I will see you in the next episode.